Darth Plagueis' story is a tragic one, because while he learned to keep others alive, he was ultimately betrayed before he could master his own immortality. Yet before his downfall, this Dark Lord unlocked the secrets of life and death through methods no Sith had ever achieved before. However, his journey into darkness began decades earlier, with the birth of a child carefully shaped by Sith plans. On the frozen world of Megiddo, around 120 BBY, a boy named Hego Damask was born, a boy who would one day become Darth Plagueis. The Sith had spent years planning his birth, creating someone who could use the Force like no other. Years before Hego's birth, his father, Car Damask, met a mysterious starship designer named Rugus Gnome. While the meeting seemed like a chance encounter, Gnome was secretly the Sith Lord Darth Tenebrous. This smart Bith had planned every detail of their meeting as part of a grand plan that would change the galaxy's future. Therefore, he set up a marriage between Car and a Force-sensitive female Muun who served as his follower. Their goal was simple: to create a child strong in the Force. Although Car had no idea about the manipulation when he agreed to the arrangement, Hego's mother knowingly played her part, seducing Car to create a Force-strong heir. Even before he was born, the conspirators had already set their trap in motion. Because official canon only gives glimpses of Plagueis' story, we've drawn from Star Wars legends to present his full life. The unusual child. Hego's powers proved more dangerous than anyone had expected, and by age 5, he could already use Force manipulation to control others. In one horrifying incident, he used a mind trick to make another child jump to his death. When his father witnessed this act, he became deeply disturbed by what his son had done. However, his mother understood what this meant completely. From the very beginning, she watched him closely, tracking his development and keeping his abilities hidden from the wider world. She acted as Tenebrous' partner in the plan, warning Hego to hide his powers, while knowing that darker schemes were unfolding, since Hego's potential had caught the attention of darker forces. While Tenebrous had monitored the boy from the start, he was waiting for the Force-strong heir his manipulation had produced. When the boy reached the right age, the Sith Lord approached his parents with an offer they couldn't refuse. In exchange for their son, they would receive wealth and advancement beyond their dreams. Therefore, Hego's unsuspecting father handed him over for riches, unaware of Tenebrous' true identity or his wife's role in the plot. Under Tenebrous' teaching, Hego Damask died while Darth Plagueis was born, as the young Muun left Megiddo behind forever, taking his Sith name as an apprentice. Still, Tenebrous proved no traditional mentor, since he taught the young apprentice only what served his own twisted ends. He pushed Plagueis to develop the secret art of midichlorian manipulation while withholding crucial knowledge about the dark side's deeper mysteries. What Plagueis didn't realize was that his master had a dangerous plan. Tenebrous secretly saw the young Muun only as a tool for his own eternal life, viewing him not as a successor, but as a way to unlock immortality's secrets. Moreover, unknown to his student, Tenebrous broke the rule of 2 by secretly training another student, making Darth Venomous his backup plan. Ancient Sith records showed that as the young apprentice became more powerful every year, he began sensing that his master was keeping important secrets from him. Still, he had no idea about the second apprentice, or Tenebrous' ultimate plan to use him as a mere stepping stone. In 67 BBY, everything changed when Plagueis finally seized his chance for freedom deep within the mining cavern of Baldemnik. During what appeared to be a routine surveying mission, Plagueis saw the cavern's ceiling begin to collapse. Therefore, Plagueis used the chaos to his advantage by causing more rocks to fall and crush his master. As Tenebrous lay trapped and dying beneath the rubble, his apprentice personally snapped the Bith's neck with his bare hands. Only after killing Tenebrous did the Muun discover the shocking truth about Darth Venomous. This betrayal from beyond the grave filled Plagueis with rage, reinforcing his belief that he could trust no one completely. He then defeated and captured Venomous alive for horrific experiments. The Sith studied the Bith's body through increasingly intensive tests until, around 42 BBY, he began the most terrible phase, repeatedly killing and reviving Venomous to unlock Death's secrets, continuing until the tortured body couldn't take it anymore. Thus, the student had become the master, and now he could pursue the one thing that terrified him most: his own inevitable death. conquering death itself. With Tenebrous dead, Darth Plagueis emerged from the shadows as the new Dark Lord of the Sith. He then took on the public identity of Hago Damask II, a respected Muun businessman and political moneyman who commanded vast wealth through Damask Holdings. Having inherited his father's financial empire, which gave him ready access to powerful people across the galaxy, he used this position to advance his goals. While posing as this influential banker, Plagueis became a trusted ally to politicians and royalty, all while quietly advancing the Sith grand plan that had been developing for centuries. Through Damask Holdings, he subtly influenced major institutions like the Banking Guild and even the Trade Federation's leadership. By day, he ruled the highest circles of galactic finance as a powerful banking tycoon. By night, he was a Sith Lord, manipulating events to weaken the Republic. Every handshake brought him closer to ultimate power. The Dark Lord made alliances with crime groups like the Hutt Cartel and Black Sun, using their resources to eliminate threats across the galaxy's underworld. Still, more than political power or revenge against the Jedi, Plagueis wanted what had escaped generations before him: living forever. His single fear of losing power drove him to master midichlorian control, learning to create life and to prevent death through methods no other Sith had successfully achieved. Therefore, influencing midichlorians to create life and prevent death became his greatest focus. Plagueis used his cruel experiments with the trapped Darth Venomous to push beyond what the Force normally allowed. He learned to heal deadly wounds and make lifespans longer through his research. He could even bring those who had recently died back to life through careful control of their life force. However, what Plagueis didn't realize was that the Force itself was watching. Eventually, Plagueis came to believe that this Force energy kept a careful balance. His actions might cause an equal and opposite reaction. This theory would prove correct, as the Force was preparing to strike back against his extreme control of life. Old Sith writings show that in 42 BBY, the Dark Lord did a ritual alongside his student. The ritual was so terrible that it seemed to make the Force angry. Working together, Plagueis and his student tried to control the Force energy completely, trying to tip the balance toward darkness forever. The experiment seemed to work at first, giving them an understanding of life unlike anything seen before. Years later, Plagueis' student would recall how he and his master together learned the dark side's final secrets. However, the Force's response was fast and final. Plagueis sensed that the Force itself may have struck back. Shortly afterward, a problem appeared in the form of a fatherless boy on a distant desert world. Their actions had caused the Force to create a Jedi's predicted chosen one who would fix things. Years before this terrible ritual, Plagueis had realized he would need a smart and sneaky partner, someone younger and more skilled with politics who could carry out their plans on the galactic stage. So the Dark Lord had begun searching for someone who could handle both politics and the dark side with equal skill. The perfect weapon. Fate delivered exactly what Darth Plagueis had been seeking. On the peaceful world of Naboo in 65 BBY, the Dark Lord was conducting business in the royal court. Posing as the influential banker Hago Damask, he encountered a young nobleman whose potential immediately caught his attention. Palpatine was the heir of House Palpatine, a teenager burning with ambition. Palpatine's natural political instincts and talent for reading people marked him as the ideal candidate for Sith training. Gradually, the Master gained Palpatine's trust. He encouraged the young man's resentments against his controlling father and fed his natural lust for power. The Dark Lord presented himself as a mentor who understood Palpatine's true potential, someone who could guide him to the greatness he deserved. His manipulation was subtle yet devastating, playing on every weakness in the proud youth's character while slowly corrupting his moral foundation. But Plagueis' plan reached far deeper than simple corruption. Years of careful tricks finally reached their breaking point. During a fight with his family, Palpatine's held-back rage suddenly exploded. Guided by his mentor's influence and consumed by years of anger, the young nobleman did the unthinkable. He murdered his father and entire family in a single act of violence that changed galactic history forever. The Sith Lord ensured the crime remained hidden, making the family's disappearance look like a tragic accident that would never implicate his new apprentice. That horrific moment severed Palpatine's last ties to his former life. The Master gave him a new identity and purpose. Therefore, Palpatine fully embraced Plagueis as his master and took on the Sith mantle of Darth Sidious. Yet he would continue using his family name publicly as part of their long-term deception. Under Plagueis' teaching, Sidious proved to be everything his master had hoped for and more. He learned not only the techniques of the dark side, but also the art of presenting different faces to various audiences. Sidious could act as a friendly senator to his colleagues, a caring mentor to allies, and a ruthless master to his followers. Each persona was perfectly crafted to achieve his goals while keeping his true nature completely hidden. However, their partnership carried the seeds of its own destruction. The relationship between master and apprentice was built on the Sith rule of two. They worked together toward common goals while both understanding that eventually, Sidious would have to surpass and destroy his master. This tension forced them to continuously adapt and grow stronger. They knew each could be a threat, but they still relied on each other to reach their goals. But neither master nor apprentice could foresee the betrayal that would reshape the galaxy. The Dark Lord recognized that Sidious's greatest strength lay in politics rather than pure force power. With his master's behind-the-scenes support, Sidious began building friendships with key figures across the galaxy. He befriended senators, corporate leaders, and influential nobles, all while keeping his true nature perfectly hidden from even the most perceptive politicians. Their partnership achieved its first major victory in 52 BBY, when Palpatine was elected as Naboo's representative in the Galactic Senate. This achievement required eliminating Naboo's senator, Vidar Kim, through a staged accident to open the seat, a death the Master arranged while Sidious maintained believable innocence. The Legends novel Darth Plagueis confirms that Palpatine was still apprenticed to Plagueis upon entering the Senate, showing their collaboration during these early political years. For the first time in a millennium, a Sith Lord sat within the Republic's government, guided from the shadows by his master. As Sidious's influence grew, so did his independence from his master's direct guidance. He began undertaking missions of his own, some with the Moon's blessing and others in secret. Sidious took particular interest in the galaxy's criminal underworld and the forgotten systems that felt abandoned by the Republic's corruption. During this period, Sidious also acquired his own secret apprentice, named Darth Maul, a young Zabrak trained from childhood as a deadly enforcer, though Sidious viewed him as merely a tool rather than a true Sith heir. Maul's existence represented Sidious's growing confidence, his willingness to prepare for the day when he would have to stand alone against his master. The two Sith Lords started taking bolder steps in their plan. Ancient records tell of secret meetings in which Plagueis, acting as Hugo Damask, and Sidious planted seeds of doubt in Jedi Master Dooku. At the same time, they also pushed his friend Sifo Dyas to act on his visions of war. They were systematically corrupting and manipulating Force users who could serve their purposes when the time came. Yet beneath the surface cooperation, tensions were building. Sidious had learned everything his master could teach him and was beginning to view the cautious approach as a limitation rather than wisdom. His ambitions were growing beyond what even Plagueis had expected. Death of the Deathless. By 32 BBY, chaos threatened to consume the galaxy. Most major problems had been caused by the two Sith Lords working together. Darth Plagueis and Darth Sidious spent decades corrupting the Republic, and their hard work was finally paying off. In the Senate, endless debates dragged on. Powerful corporations ignored the central authorities, and the Jedi did not notice the growing darkness. Therefore, for the last step of the grand plan, a galactic war was needed, one that would give the Republic a reason to become more controlling. To make this happen, the Sith Lords built a network of pawns all over the galaxy. All of them were unaware that their actions were serving the Sith's true goal. But everything changed when powerful enemies struck back at them. As the Master's public influence grew through Damask Holdings, so did the number of those who saw him as a threat. By the early 30s BBY, this danger materialized into coordinated assassination attempts. Ex-King Ars Varuna of Naboo was the most dangerous because he understood how completely the ancient moon had deceived and destroyed him. Working with allies, including Senator Pack's team, Varuna hired Maladian assassins to kill the banker who ruined his rule. The attack nearly succeeded, cutting Plagueis' throat and forcing him to rely on a breathing apparatus. Sidious arrived in time to fend off the assassins, secretly saving his master's life while maintaining his facade of loyalty. However, this injury would make the Dark Lord vulnerable in ways he never imagined. He wore a respirator after that. The ancient Muun believed constant vigilance was key to cheating death, not knowing this technology would later help cause his downfall. After the attack, the Master became terrified of dying and hardly slept. He used the dark side to keep himself alive for years. The ancient Muun now relied on technology to breathe, and this technological dependence would prove crucial in the years to come. What Plagueis didn't realize was that the galaxy itself was about to test their plans. Sidious was executing increasingly bold operations under his master's guidance. He strengthened ties with systems that felt abandoned by the stagnant Republic, encouraging them to consider more drastic action. The Neimoidians of the Trade Federation proved especially easy to manipulate. They held grudges over taxes and trade rules that Sidious carefully worsened. A long campaign of corruption led to the scheme to blockade Naboo. The Trade Federation claimed they were protesting trade taxes, but the real goal was to create a crisis that would make Palpatine Supreme Chancellor. From the Federation's motives to the Senate's predictable reactions, every part had been planned years in advance. But there was another crucial element the Sith had prepared. Making sure the Republic would have an army when the war finally came required careful planning. The Dark Lord used layers of helpers and his banking guild connections to arrange the funding. He secretly built a clone army for the Republic. Plagueis carefully tricked Jedi Master Sheev Palpatine and played on his real fears about galactic security. This way, Plagueis ensured this massive military force would be built. Consequently, when the time came, the Republic would have soldiers ready. Yet those same soldiers would eventually answer to the Sith when the proper moment arrived. But during the unfolding Naboo crisis, something unprecedented occurred. Reports of a problem reached Plagueis in the Force. A boy named Anakin Skywalker, born without a father on the remote desert world of Tatooine. The Dark Lord immediately recognized the terrible twist. The Force had created a Chosen One in response to their actions from years before. A Jedi prophecy had predicted one who would bring balance by destroying the Sith. Therefore, that very weapon of their destruction had arrived. Deeply unnerved by this threat, Plagueis urgently pressed Sidious to ensure the boy would never become a Jedi. Darth Maul's mission on Naboo was specifically designed to eliminate Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi who discovered Anakin. By removing the one Jedi most likely to train the boy, the Sith hoped to prevent their own destruction. The Dark Lord, still recovering from serious injuries and relying on his breathing device, turned his focus more toward his research about living forever. He felt confident enough to imagine stepping into the public eye, perhaps as co-ruler alongside his student in the new era. While Plagueis trusted Sidious to handle their political schemes, he focused on the final goal, never dying through midichlorian control. Yet Sidious was growing impatient with his master's vision. He had learned everything the older Sith could teach him about politics and manipulation. Where the master preferred to act from the shadows, Sidious was ready to seize power openly, ruling through strength rather than secrecy. He now saw the ancient Muun more as an obstacle than an ally. But Sidious had no intention of sharing power with anyone. He wanted the throne entirely for himself. Imagining his master stepping into the light as co-ruler filled him with disgust. It strengthened his resolve to eliminate the Dark Lord before those plans could take shape. Both Sith Lords understood that their greatest triumph was close. The invasion of Naboo would set in motion events leading to Palpatine's election as Supreme Chancellor. This would complete a goal the Sith had plotted for a millennium. For the first time since their defeat at Ruusan, a Dark Lord of the Sith would openly hold the reins of galactic power, even if hidden behind a false identity. Therefore, Plagueis quietly oversaw these events as the final test of his grand plan. Everything he had worked toward for decades was finally coming to fruition. As Palpatine's election drew near, Plagueis planned their victory celebration with wine and grand speeches about the future. The Naboo crisis had succeeded perfectly. Chancellor Valorum fell, and the Senate now supported Senator Palpatine. After decades of careful manipulation, the Master's ultimate goal was finally in reach. In an expensive penthouse high above Coruscant, Master and apprentice gathered to celebrate. Plagueis spoke eagerly of their future plans, envisioning a galaxy reshaped by Sith ideals. With unlimited resources now at their disposal, even the final secrets of immortality seemed within reach. Since the attack on his life, Plagueis had never allowed himself to sleep or let his guard down. But as victory finally arrived, the Muun began to celebrate with rare wine, savoring their triumph. This moment of vulnerability would prove more dangerous than Plagueis could imagine. The apprentice had decided long before that night that his master must die. He had learned everything the ancient Muun could teach him and had grown beyond his plans for the future. The Dark Lord sensed nothing amiss as death approached. In the dark chamber, with Coruscant's lights shining below, Sidious struck without warning. Force lightning erupted from his fingertips, overwhelming the unsuspecting Muun. The electrical assault shattered Plagueis' breathing apparatus, leaving him gasping for air. The future Emperor laughed at his dying master with cold satisfaction. All the legendary wisdom had failed to see this betrayal coming. Here was the Sith Lord who had learned to save others from death, yet he could not save himself. All this knowledge of the Force and secrets of life crumbled to nothing when his own apprentice betrayed him. The Dark Lord was struck down by his apprentice's hand, just as he had once destroyed Darth Tenebrous before him. Hence, the cycle of Sith treachery continued, as it always had throughout their dark history. But thousands of years earlier, a Sith Emperor named Valkorion discovered a different path to never dying, one that let him rule for hundreds of years. So watch his story next.